name is Monique, or you might know me by niqisax, and today I'm going to be sharing with you things that I learned in my $300,000 music business degree from Berklee College of Music, plus a few things I've learned on my own through real-world experience. I believe a lot of this information will be really useful to you musicians looking to get a little bit more business savvy, protect yourself, know how to do your taxes, and make your money go further. So let's get into it. Let's start with marketing. If you want to get opportunities, make sales, and get your music heard, you have to know the basics of marketing. The way I look at marketing is that you want to be memorable, and the best way to be memorable is to show up and speak up often. In the online space, it's important to have a consistent brand across social media platforms. So that would mean having the same username and profile picture, which will also help people to easily identify you and be able to trust you. If you don't already have profiles on the major social media platforms like Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and Facebook, that should be your first step. Depending on your goals, you may also consider being on Twitch, Patreon, Threads, or any other platform that you think your target audience might be on. If you want to check out my Patreon or any of my other socials, those will be linked in the description down below. After that, start posting good quality content and doing it consistently. So ask yourself what you can realistically do to start posting weekly, semi-weekly, or twice a month. Your posting timeline will really depend on you and what your specific goals are. And don't forget to comment and support other people on social media too, other artists and musicians. You never want everything to be all about you. So engaging with other people's content is a great way to foster community and get to know other creators. I think you'll find the most success if you prioritize putting as much value as you can into everything that you put out and really trying to help your audience rather than just seeing what your audience can do for you. In the real world, showing up often might be going to jam sessions and meeting new people. Telling your friends or family when you've created or released something new that you're excited about. Or make posters and put them up around town for when you're offering private lessons or you have a gig coming up. Another great idea if you're teaching is to reach out to local band directors and offer to give their students free sectionals in exchange for letting you offer them your lessons. These are just a few simple but powerful ways to start getting your name out there. In marketing, we have the customer's journey, which looks like a funnel. And our goal is to get the top of the funnel as big as possible by getting to reach as many people as possible, specifically those that are in your target audience. Now, I've said the words target audience a couple times. If you don't know specifically who you are trying to reach with your music or content, clarifying that can help you focus your output and make it resonate better with the right people. You may have the best song, composition, or teaching ability, but if you're putting it in front of the wrong people, that really just won't matter at the end of the day. Who is your ideal client, student, or streamer? What is their name? What do they like to do for fun? Where are they from? Get to know as many details as you can about who you are trying to reach and write it down on a piece of paper. This is a great exercise to help you imagine and get really specific about who you want to reach. It's always okay to experiment in the beginning with different audiences if you're still toying with different personas or avenues. Sometimes it just takes a while to figure out who exactly you're making it for. You'll begin to notice that some of your audience members will naturally be more engaged or interested than others. Now we are progressing slightly downward in our funnel from awareness to interest. This is where creating an email newsletter will be helpful. When creating your newsletter, asking people to give you their personal email address is a much bigger ask than just asking them to hit follow. So to incentivize people to join your email list, give them something in return. Maybe it's a free PDF with information that you think could be valuable to them, or an MP3 download, or anything else. Your email list is going to be the people that are truly interested in you and what you can offer. These are the people that you can let know when you have a new offer out, something to sell, or a new song release. Just make sure that in between all of these promotions, you're still giving them value and you're not just spamming them with something that they'll immediately want to unsubscribe from. Now, when we get to the bottom of the funnel, we want to make that wide too. So basically, we're just talking about diversifying your streams of income, which is one of the best things you can start doing. Beyond teaching lessons, gigging, and recording, you may also consider selling merch, high-quality downloads of your music, educational courses, PDFs, transcriptions, original sheet music, or anything else that you can think of. There will be people who are your true fans and want to support you financially. You can offer these products on your own website by linking Shopify or something like that, or use Patreon or a combination of the two. Again, my recommendation would be to over-deliver on quality. Make sure you're putting products out there that genuinely have value that you think can benefit your customers' lives and something that you're proud of, rather than just focusing on what you can get from them. And if you have any other clever marketing strategies, make sure to leave them in the comments below. And don't forget that if you're starting a big project like recording an album or going on tour, there are actually a lot of grants to help musicians, which is basically free money that you can apply for, sometimes with a targeted focus or theme. Now let's talk about gigging. When you start gigging around your city, they may ask to see your EPK or electronic press kit. This is basically a fancy flyer that includes your name, a high-quality photo, contact information, and clickable links to your music or social media platforms. You may also put on a short bio or any other notable achievements that you feel would be helpful for a booking agent to know. Now, let me ask you, what is the number one thing that booking agents care about when they're thinking of booking you for their venue? Is it how many songs you've released or how many followers you have? The answer is, how many tickets can you sell? Some venues may even put the entire burden of selling tickets onto the artist's shoulders, requiring them to sell a minimum of 20 tickets to cover overhead costs, or else the artist will have to pay the difference out of their own pocket. If hearing that makes you hesitate because you're not sure if you can get that many people to come to your show, you may consider starting gigging in restaurants, weddings, or corporate events. I found that these are way easier to get started in because you are offering a service to an already existing business. So while people come to eat their dinner, which they are already paying the restaurant for, they can also enjoy your music, which the restaurant has hired you to do, to add even more value to their own business. Now, I want you to make sure that you know what you are worth. Although charging $100 or more for 1 hour of performance may initially seem like a lot of money, you and your client must remember that it's not just the 1 hour that you're being paid for. It's all the years of practicing, lessons, and experience that you bring to the table. Not to mention the time you've spent rehearsing your band, admin work, travel costs and time, the added self-employment tax, among many other fees that you yourself will have to cover. Do your research and find out what the current market value for teachers, performers, or producers are in your area, and then adjust accordingly. When you are getting booked for weddings, it is imperative that you have created a contract for you and the client to sign. This contract will protect you and them as well. Your contracts should outline the time, window of performance, your rate, overtime rates, cancellation policies, any breaks, meals, expectations like song requests or attire, and a host of other items. Now, it is absolutely mandatory that you make sure that when you book for a wedding, you receive a 50% down payment on whatever you are charging them. This is a common practice in the wedding industry among photographers, videographers, caterers, florists, and it should be for you too. If you forget to do this, you are asking for a headache. Doing this ensures that although it may be unfortunate, if the engagement breaks off for any reason or something happens, you will still get paid, covering the costs for you reserving their date, assuming that you may have had to turn down other work that you could have done that day, all the preparation time in organizing a band and set list, things like that, and make sure that you don't walk away with nothing at all if something like that happens. This all may seem pretty obvious, but I have unfortunately heard of a lot of musicians getting screwed over by not having this policy in place when they started booking. When you play a gig, preparing an invoice is a professional way to leave a paper trail for both you and your client when you have to do taxes at the end of the year. You can easily create an invoice in something like Canva. Just be sure to include your name, the invoice number, the date that you performed the work on, the time that you performed the work, as well as maybe a brief description and how much you are charging them for. You may also include an itemized list if there are multiple things that they are being charged for, such as meals or travel time or anything like that. But usually it will just be like one lump sum if it's for a regular gig. And then you can also include what payment methods you prefer to be paid with. Now let's talk about gigs that you should never even consider. These are gigs that come from scammers. Scammers love musicians because unfortunately musicians' email addresses or contact info can be easily found online, and scammers use this for their own evil purposes. They may reach out to you asking for you to play a gig, which by the way is all made up, and then they may send you a check in advance, but write an amount much greater than what you had initially asked for, and then ask you to send the difference back to them, saying that it was an accident, or they accidentally put you and the photographer's check into one and just sent it to you, and so now you have to send them back the difference. But the catch is that when you go to deposit the check, it will bounce from your bank account, and then you will be out the additional amount from your own savings that they have asked you to pay them back with. This is just one example of a scam, but there are many others to be careful of. So protect yourself by always checking the email address to see if it looks fishy. Other telltale signs may be weird formatting, spelling mistakes, or if they're asking for things like money orders, which cannot be reversed. Now let's move on to how you will organize your business and pay taxes. Creating a separate bank account for all of your business adventures like gigging and gig expenses or teaching and profits from any of those from your personal banking will make everything much easier. You will be able to more easily identify your expenses and what deductions can be made from those, as well as your profits without it getting tangled up in your personal spending. Mentally, it also just helps you to have a good understanding of your business and where you're at with everything. Not to mention that if you do get audited, this is something that they will fully expect you to have already done, and you may get in trouble if you haven't already done this. So keep in mind that while you're working, if you need a meal between sound check and your performance or something like that, 50% of that cost can be deducted from those meals. If you work from home creating content or teaching lessons, then the amount of square footage that you use, such as your home office or teaching studio, can be deducted from your rent as a business expense. Depreciation of assets that you use, such as your laptop, instrument, or other gear, can also be calculated, and there are a few different depreciation methods that are used, so make sure you look up those and start to understand the differences between them. As a musician, most of your work will fall under the independent contractor format as opposed to an employee, and it's important to understand the difference between the two because your workplace protections as well as how you are getting taxed differs quite a bit between the two. Now, how the two are differentiated varies slightly based on the state, but the main idea is that if you are getting contracted for one-time work, like playing at somebody's wedding, then you are considered an independent contractor because you are in control of your work and it's a one-time thing. If you are an employee and you show up to the same place every day for the same amount of hours and you get training and are told how to do something, then you'll be considered an employee in most cases. A few examples where you may actually be considered an employee as a musician is if you teach music at a school, or if you are a cruise ship musician, or if you play in an orchestra or military band or something like that. As an independent contractor, you will also be required to pay self-employment tax. So when you're an employee, usually your employer will be required to pay half of the taxes and the other half will be deducted from your paycheck so that the IRS makes sure that they get paid. And then when your employer accidentally takes out too much from your paycheck each month, that's when you get your tax return. Now, as an independent contractor, you yourself will have to take out the full 15.3% of your paychecks and set it aside for taxes. This is important to remember when you're setting your rates because you're going to have to end up paying more out of pocket for those taxes. Independent contractors are also required to file quarterly taxes, which can seem like a lot, but it'll help to make sure that you aren't ending up with a really large sum at the end of the year that you have to dig in your pocket and find money for. So whenever you play a gig, you should make sure that you are sending the person that you're performing the service for, specifically when it's a business, a W-9 form, which is kind of like a W-2, but for independent contractors. Now, you don't really need to send this if it's just like a person or individual who's asking you to perform on their new single or a wedding. It was mostly just between business to businesses that you would do this. But whenever you do get asked to send over your W-9 form, you want to make sure that you always send it password protected because a W-9 contains sensitive information on it, which is your social security number. But a better way than just password protecting your email with a W-9 is to get an EIN or an employee identification number. Using an EIN makes so that you don't have to put your SSN on it instead, which is a lot more sensitive, and you can easily get an EIN for free by going to the irs.gov website and signing up there. When you get to the EIN form, it will ask you what type of legal structure you are. So let's talk about the differences and which one you should click. If you are an independent musician working for yourself, by default, you will most likely be considered a sole proprietorship. If you are a band and you have multiple people playing with you, then you may be a partnership. And by the way, you should make sure that you have a partnership agreement outlining everything that's going on between you and your bandmates. And then finally, we have what's called an LLC or limited liability corporation. Now, the great thing about LLCs is that if someone tried to sue you for something, say a student came over to your house, you forgot to salt your driveway and they slipped and fell on the ice and hurt themselves, then they could sue you and everything you're worth. However, if you have an LLC in place, they cannot sue you for your personal items or things like that. They can only sue you for what your business is worth. Obviously, there's a lot of nuances in the example I gave and other examples, but generally that's the rule, that your LLC wall cannot be pierced into your personal assets for when you're getting sued. So it's a really good way to protect yourself. And that's just another reason why it's important to keep your banking between personal and business separated so that the LLC can have all of its own items and assets and your personal thing can have all of that stuff over there. Now, the difference in where you have your business and what state you're from can differ pretty wildly when setting up an LLC because the costs can range anywhere from $40 to $500. But when you're setting up an LLC, these 6 rules will generally stay the same. Okay, I know that was a lot of information, but if you have any more questions on it, you can leave it in the comments below. And a lot of this information is pretty easy to Google and learn more about on your own too. One of the easiest ways to make your money go farther passively, and it only takes about 15 minutes to do, is setting up a high-yield savings account. A high-yield savings account essentially protects your money from losing value due to inflation with no added risk to you. Money sitting in your typical bank account, even a money market account or something like that, will not earn nearly as much interest as it would as if you put it in a high-yield savings account. The APY in a high-yield savings account is significantly higher and it compounds pretty much every day and you don't have to do anything. It's a good idea to put your long-term savings and emergency fund in here, and it's really easy to transfer money in and out of with no added fees, and it usually only takes a day or two to do so. I like to use Wealthfront. It's FDIC insured, and while this video is not sponsored by them, I genuinely just like using them. I will put my referral link in the description down below. If you use it, you'll get an extra 0.75% APY on your money for the next 3 months, which would make your current APY as of March 2026 4.05% if you opened up your account today. Again, this is probably the easiest thing that you can do in this whole video, and it'll only take you a few minutes to set up. If you are a musician that travels a lot for performances or anything like that, you should definitely consider getting a travel credit card. Of course, the caveat to this is that you are responsible with credit cards and can count on yourself to pay it off each month. Assuming that you are responsible enough to only spend at what you already have in your bank account, using a credit card is a great way to build your credit and to get cashback rewards. There are a few general travel credit cards that I've heard really good reviews about, such as the Amex, Chase Sapphire, and Venture One Capital cards. Some of these, like the Amex, do have pretty high annual fees, but a lot of people find that their rewards end up covering those fees and then a lot more on top of that. You'll have to do your own research to figure out which card will work best for you and your own personal spending habits to get the most rewards back. There are also specific airline cards, which can be good if you find yourself frequenting one airline much more than the others. For example, here in the East Coast, I fly on JetBlue a lot, and the benefits of getting an airline-specific travel credit card is that you get priority seating, so like Group A, which is important to those of us who have carry-on instruments like a saxophone, because being stressed out in Group D, E, or F and being booked on a full flight, not sure if you can bring your instrument on or if they'll force you to check it. It's just not something you want to deal with every time you're traveling. So that Group A is actually really nice for musicians who have travel on gear. If you are considering getting one of these cards, keep an eye or ear out on your next flight, because sometimes they will announce in-flight specials to passengers, and they may waive the first annual fee and give you a sign-on bonus of 80,000 points or something like that. You may even consider getting one of those general travel credit cards as well as an airline-specific card and combining the two. Again, just use your credit card responsibly, and then you can end up with some neat perks like free flights with saved up points, lounge benefits, or even hotel perks. Of course, there is a lot more that we could talk about, but these are just the fundamentals to get you started. If you have any questions or want to see a part 2 to this video, definitely let me know in the comments below. And if you want a checklist with all the things that we talked about so that you can get started and have it clearly visualized for you, click the link in my description and I'll send that to you for free. If you like this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave me a comment, and I'll see you next time. Bye!